Blog Talk Radio.
Following ingredients include a look behind the scenes. Cook uncovered until hot. Add grooves to taste.
I would like, if I may, to take you on a strange journey.
Once upon a time, there was a little girl.
The accident was over a year ago. A second woman has been elected president. The 12th planet has been named in the solar system. The last wild polar bear has died. I slept through it all. I was here for my waking. He called it a beginning. He said it was good. I think he may have thought that anything I did was good.
Welcome to Transition Radio, live from Wilton Manors, Florida, with your host, Mark Angelo Cummings.
And your hostess, Jessica Lynn Cummings.
Show for trans folks, by trans folks, here to let your voice be heard. Well, good evening and welcome to Transition Radio, and it is Trans Tuesday. So glad you all were able to join us tonight.
Yes, and tonight we have PHILLIPS. She quotes, "I am an airline pilot living in Jupiter, Florida. I formally began my transition almost 5 years ago, and I am transitioning on the job. I have my FFS scheduled in Malaga, Spain in late April." But before we bring her on, we would like to thank our sponsors, thebreastfilmstore.com. They have everything you could possibly need for your cross-dressing and transgender needs. And Dr. Varden Maldirosia, he's a facial feminization surgeon in Jupiter, Florida. Please give him a call today at 561-624-0900. Dr. Maldirosia is highly qualified in understanding of our needs. TJ explains, "I still present as male in public right now, although the effects of HRT are making my transition more and more noticeable monthly. I will be a full-time female after my facial surgeries, likely within the year. I have been married for 18 years to an absolute saint who truly loves me and is 100% with me during my transition. I have 4 children, 3 of whom are 100% supportive, and 1 who will not even talk to me. My siblings and parents have known about my plans for about a year, and they still love me. While working full-time as an airline captain, I am halfway through my studies for my PhD in holistic nutrition and natural health. I'm not certain I will keep flying more than 5 more years, and I would like to run for office as soon as I am 100% comfortable in my new female role. You can find my complete biography and flight history at www.phillipshq.com. and www.usjetpilot.com, respectively. Now, please welcome to our show the multi-talented TJ Phillips. Hi, TJ.
Hi, thank you both so much for hosting the show. You're doing such a great job for such an important topic.
Thank you, and thank you for being with us.
Yes, definitely.
I beat you to it.
Yes, you did beat me to it. But thank you so much, Jay.
Oh, you're welcome. I'm glad to finally have a day off.
I thought you were flying in last we spoke. Were you?
I did. I flew in from Boston just this morning. I had a 3-day trip. I've been flying out of Boston for the past several months. I was in Florida for quite a while, but I took a promotion, which took me out of the state for a while, at least for a couple of years. So.
Yeah, that must be debilitating.
Yeah. How long have you been in the industry?
It's difficult. It's a difficult industry for sure to understand, to get your head around. But I've been flying airplanes since I started flying, actually back in 1981, which I'm sorry to be dating myself, but I went to the Air Force Academy, and my first flying ever was actually in a glider at the Air Force Academy. And from there, we went through the flight screening program in a Cessna, and I got accepted to flight school. So most of my flying has been, categorically, all of it's been in jet-powered airplanes since 1985. So I spent 13 years in the Air Force. I flew special operations for a few years. And after I started a family, it became evident I needed to be around home more than I needed to be around the world. So I ended up going to become an instructor pilot in Texas in a T-38. I couldn't find the picture for you for the profile. I dug through all my stuff. I couldn't find a T-38 picture, but it's on the usjetpilot.com website.
Yes.
From there, I flew corporate for a while. I ended up not flying for a while, actually, too. I had a flying job with flying an A-10, which is a ground attack airplane up in Michigan, and that deal fell through because it was not quite political enough, I guess. So I ended up doing mortgages and selling pharmaceuticals, pretty much anything I could do to keep the cash flow in for the family. And then ultimately I got back into corporate flying and now airline flying for the past approximately 8 years. It's been a pretty tumultuous ride for sure.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit about transitioning on the job. Have they been cooperative? I'm
going to give it a qualified yes. When I say that, they is kind of ubiquitous. It's like, who is they? I really don't know. The people, I've shared my situation with the people I must share it with, which would be my direct managers, my chief pilots, my human resources people. And as individuals, they've been very kind. They've been very understanding. They've been very sweet people. Regretfully, all of us are confined to the mores and to the laws that are part of a corporation. So, as the corporation goes, not so much. I mean, it's been very difficult. I explained to them 4.25 years ago what my plans were, what it involved. I gave them the WPATH guidelines, everything they asked every step of the way, and their first position was, yes, we're 100% behind you. Whatever you need, you let us know. An entire year went by, and absolutely nothing changed. There was no policies, no procedures, no understanding of anything. So it took another year. So 2 years into it before I even really got any sort of real live person that was willing and able to comprehend what must happen for me to transition on the job. I actually jumped on an airplane and flew up to the headquarters and had a face-to-face with the HR people it was a veritable tribunal, if you will. I had to explain everything start to finish. It was very excruciating, actually, to go through everything and explain everything, but it took several hours, and I explained it, at which time they said they're going to champion the effort and get whatever support they can for me. And 6 months to a year passed and nothing happened. So it's been very frustrating. Thankfully, I do have what I'll call a liaison right now, and she's been delightful. I mean, she's helping me finally get some information about a uniform policy. In fact, just this morning, I got word that they're going to, after my facial surgery is done, and after I'm complete 100% through transition, that they will assist me with the uniforms. I won't have to buy all new uniforms. They're going to help me with that, which is great. The simple things still are not there. There's nothing by way of bathroom policy. There's no corporate understanding, at least in the management level, about what this is about. A lot of the nuances that we're familiar with, we being people who are close to this condition and understand it as far as it's capable of being understood. there's really not much else they can do other than just listen to people like Gina Duncan. Gina's been trying to advocate for me and trying to make inroads with the company. But I think they're just going to have to knuckle down and get some knowledge under their belt. And they've been recalcitrant with respect to absorbing what I've given them hard copy. Candidly, it's going to take somebody like the HRC or somebody with some clout to say, hey, look, you really have to put some things in place to help these people. So that's a long answer to a short question. I apologize, but it's been very it's been arduous most of the way. And whenever I have any sort of breakthrough of any kind, it just almost brings me to tears.
Wow. That's good. So you are multi-talented, play various instruments, and sing. Tell us a little bit about that side of you.
Gosh, music is a kind of a zen for me. I used to be a jazz trumpeter my whole life. I was in Michigan. I was an all-state jazz trumpeter. Not much of a calling as an adult for a trumpeter, though. So I started playing guitar, and unlike you, who you're both very talented musicians, and you're very good at singing and playing guitar, and that's great. That was not me. So I migrated over to the bass guitar, and I find myself just captivated. It's sometimes I often fly with my bass guitar. In fact, people have started identifying with me. Hey, where's your guitar? So it's kind of cool. But and it was kind of a serendipity. As I was flying with my guitar, I'd sling my guitar and go into the flight deck and put it in the closet up in the flight deck. Some people would just automatically presuppose that I'm growing my hair out because I'm in a band. It was a serendipity. I was like, wow, this is really, really amazing, because I didn't plan it that way, but now that my hair is well below my collar, and I'm not slinging my guitar anymore, and my body's changing finally, I think that most people are going to start seeing through that pretty quickly.
Yeah, it took me a while when I started transitioning. Actually, years before I started transitioning, I stopped playing the guitar. I kind of gave it up, and I've been playing the guitar off and on since I was 10. So I kind of just 10 off and on through my life, and then I just totally stopped when I was going through some really down times with my gender identity issues. And then finally, when I met Mark, I started picking it back up again, and I was rusty in the beginning, and I'm starting to warm up a little bit and get a little better with it. So,
well, I have a theory, and so many of my transgendered friends are musical, and I think that throughout history, people have looked at people who are different as either divine or outcasts. You can look at people who used to have epilepsy, what we know now today as epilepsy, and they would come out of their epileptic seizures with these they would discuss these visions they had, and and these people were gifted. These epileptics were gifted. They were divine. Well, I think to some degree we transsexuals are really gifted. I think people tend to look at it as a negative thing or some absurdity. I think that we actually have more connections in our brain than a normal person. Admittedly, this is just anecdotal. It's purely my opinion, but based on my friends that I've made just in the past 10 years as I've tried to make sense of my situation and come up with some plan to live happily, I've just noticed there are some really wonderful, very peaceful, creative friends. I've got my network of transsexual, transgendered friends are some of the finest people I've ever met in my life. So I think we have more connections than the average people.
Absolutely.
I definitely agree with them. And one of the things that I always say in the show is
look at the list of such talented individuals that we have on the show. We're almost like creator gods, angelic.
We're angelic, yeah. It's just, I mean, if you think about it, you know, when they talk about the stories about angels are shapeshifters, and they were able to shape and form to whatever form that they were that they wanted to present that message.
Exactly. Well, we want to share a little bit of one of your songs called "Long Ride Home."
Awesome. It's actually a good song. We tried.
Hold on. Go ahead.
Oh yeah. I was just saying that we were playing a lot of really in-your-face rock, and somebody came up and said, "Hey, you know, can you play something more of a little more rockabilly? You know, more, you know, related to, you know, we just needed to get out of the rock, just hardcore in-your-face rock. So this is what we came up with."
Awesome.
Awesome.
And it was fun. That was actually, you could hear the mixing. It wasn't really mixed really well because it was a live performance. But that song was actually written about Florida. The lyrics pertain to Florida.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah.
It has like a kind of Don Henley type feel to it.
Yes.
It's a good groove. That was a good time. I spent a lot of fun times with that band.
There's nothing like good old days. There's nothing like music. I mean, to me, that's the greatest therapy, the greatest healer. I love it completely. It's just an amazing thing.
No.
Yes. You have plans to get FFS. Can you share with our listeners a little bit more about what are you planning to do and when?
Yes, actually, I've spent my whole life not looking my face, obviously. But that said, I've spent the past 2 years reading blogs, looking at befores and afters, interviewing surgeons via email, via the phone. I really don't do things halfway. And so I actually spent about 18 months ago, I went up and talked to one of the surgeons up in Boston. In fact, he was the same surgeon that did the work with Miss Universe, the Canadian transgender that sued Donald Trump.
Yes.
If you remember her. She
Alcova.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Just beautiful girl. But I went there and he did a great job with the younger girls, but for us older ones, I just didn't see what I was looking for. So I continued to shop around, and I'm landing on the facial team out of Malaga, Spain, and I really like the results. I've got some extremely strong masculine features that that cannot stay. They have to go, and I can't do it halfway. So if it means going to Spain, that's what it means. I am, however.
I'm sorry to interrupt. Have you checked out Jupiter? It's actually a Dr. Matios, and he worked hand in hand with one of the top facial feminization surgeons. So I mean, since he's in Jupiter, I don't know.
Well, I heard you when you were talking about the show sponsors, and I was actually going to make it a point to talk to you about that. So I will definitely talk to him, and especially he's right here in my backyard. That's definitely something I should be doing. I am going to next week get my nose done with a West Palm Beach doctor. I decided to do that independently of the rest of my face because it's such an important feature, and I didn't like the rhinoplasties that I saw coming out of Spain, so I'm going to separate that out. And against all the admonishments from all of my girlfriends, I'm going to do it that way, and unfortunately, it's going to postpone the rest of my facial surgery until September, or so it looks like. But it doesn't matter. I've waited. I've waited this long. I'm going to wait whatever it takes to get it done correctly.
Exactly. Basically baby steps, and there's no rush. This is a big decision. So TJ, your flight resume mentions that you flew special operations in the military.
I did. In fact, when you asked me to find some pictures, I was thumbing through a whole bunch of pictures. I found a picture of my flight deck, somebody in my airplane that you would recognize today as the Taliban. And they were in my airplane. There were dozens of them in my airplane. That might freak you out a little bit, but if you remember back in the 80s, the Taliban were friends with us. We were assisting the Taliban as they were fighting the Soviets. So
yes.
What we did as part of our operation was we went in through Saudi Arabia into Pakistan, and we assisted. We pulled out dozens and dozens of injured Afghans and brought them to Walter Reed Medical Center in D.C. And so that was just one part of what I did. But another interesting photo I saw this morning as I was getting you pictures was you undoubtedly know who Kristen Beck is, don't you?
Yes.
Okay, Kristen.
Absolutely.
When Kristen Beck, she was featured on Anderson Cooper 360, and I saw it just maybe 6 or 8 months ago, I think it was, and I was riveted because I heard her speaking. Here she is, a Navy SEAL that's come out as transgendered. And as she was speaking, I was riveted because she was telling my story. Everything she said, I just couldn't move. I was almost paralyzed. I was like, how can somebody I don't even know be saying these words? And so, as soon as I hung up, or as soon as she was done with the interview, I went to the internet. I Googled her book, and I contacted her publicist. Subsequent to that, I've been in touch with her, and we chat all the time. It turns out, in comparing notes, that some of the photographs I took this morning or that I looked through this morning, rather, of the 82nd Airborne operations that I did, very well could have included Kristen Beck when she was a jump master for the 82nd Airborne. Talk about a small world. We're talking about late 80s. A preoperative pilot and a preoperative 82nd Airborne jump master on the same airplane on the other side of the world. Go figure. Now we both live in Florida. So.
And you're both transgender.
And so what? I'm sorry?
I said, and you're both transgender.
Yeah, we both are.
What are the odds?
You know? But I think the odds are better than we think. I think that because of shows like yours and because of your outreach, I don't know if there's a better word for it, but your efforts are going to save lives, and I think you know that, and I think that may be at the core of why you're doing what you're doing. But I'm here to tell you that the friendships and the understanding I made through the internet, I can honestly say has helped save my life. Not just in a metaphoric way, but in a factual, keeping me alive way. And so, with respect to the special operations, it was completely awesome. I used to travel. I was one of 3 air crews that was qualified in desert operations, Arctic operations, we had these big bags were packed so we can fly anywhere, anytime. But we flew in support of the White House. I flew the Secret Service guys, the limousines. Whenever CNN or there was something on the news, usually we got deployed to that area of the world. It was really exciting. Good time of my life. Felt like I was actually doing something.
It sounds very interesting, let me tell you. I mean, I think we've all had led a lot of interesting lives in our past.
Talking
and the best part's still ahead.
Oh, definitely.
Yes.
You also like to write, and you wrote a poem called I Cry Alone. Do you mind reading a little bit of that poem for our listeners?
I can read the poem to you. I pulled it out because you had asked me to. If I pause, just give me a second to pull myself together, because this is, I think for our readers who have this, are dealing with transgenderism, I think that this is really going to hit them right in the core. I entitled it, I Cry Alone. I cry alone, it seems unfair. The heavy load is mine to bear. A hideous stare looks back at me. Curse the reflection I hate to see. Did I choose this, or am I the chosen? Do I take action, or remain inside frozen? The ones I love say they love me, but they only love the me that they see. So I cry alone, drown in my tears, try back to sleep, escape the past years. The beauty lies dormant, the best still inside. The painful reveal still fully hides. But love is around, God's blessings abound, yet sobbing's the sound as I cry alone. I teach to be true, and I preach, just be you. Easy said, not so done. Inside the show, better to run. Then where does it stop? I've run my whole life. I've run from myself to hide from the strife. Piles of wet tissue, a stack of worn dreams. Is what I feel actual? Is it really as it seems? To be one in a million is not bad, they say. But then live in my skin just even a day. But keep crying alone, the burden all mine. Others are busy for this waste of time. My God, where is she? For didn't she make me? The better, the worse, in my soggy-eyed verse? Still I dream of a future, and I yearn to be more. A stitch and a suture will open the door. To all life seems perfect. See me, I'm all right, except I cry by myself, and I do it all night. Do I live a lie? Because a lie I see. And a lie I will die if I don't change me. Am I blessed or forsaken? Is it burden or gift? Does a jump set me aloft or plunge me into a rift? Is selfish an issue? To thine own self be true? Will it rob my loved ones of one they once knew? Still I cry alone, the sun not rising yet. Maybe it's sunlight I need, hope and insights to get. And now the sun breaks. Yes, I'm still breathing. The sobbing's at bay. I cling to the sun, grab onto its beaming. I can cry another day.
Beautiful poem. And definitely going to be touching a lot of hearts with that.
Absolutely.
I think the message that has to go with that is that we are not alone. Whoever's listening to this show needs to understand that they are not alone. And the one decision I made was to wait before you do anything drastic, before you do anything severe to yourself, before you hurt yourself or before you run away. Just make a decision right now to wait until tomorrow to do anything. Just always, always, always wait until the next day. Just put it off.
Exactly.
And that's how you get along, just one day at a time.
That was one of my biggest inspirations. Was that song by Wilson Phillips, Hold On.
Yes, yes.
That's one of my biggest inspirational songs that kept me going throughout everything and with my transition and whatnot. It's an amazing song. If you just sit back and listen to every word of that song, you'll know exactly what I mean.
I do. I know the song very well.
And it's a beautiful journey, one that many of us fail to see because we think that being transgender is such a curse, but it's not. I think we've been put here on this planet to live this life as transgender to help the evolution of our species. There's a lot we could help people learn about themselves through us.
I think you're right, and it's as I share with even people. One of my biggest pushes right now is actually with the HRC. The HRC has done some really, really wonderful things for the LGBT causes over the years, but just over the past year, I've really come down on them because they've made great strides, great headway with respect to the lesbian and gay agendas. But we transgendered are really a separate category. Arguably, we're the most marginalized and ignored often of the LGBT community. And I admonish them that they should really be looking at changing their scoring algorithm for the Corporate Equality Index, because somebody can score a 90% for their LGBT report card through the HRC, and such is the case with me, do virtually nothing to support transgendered. Nothing. Not even have a corporate, really not have much by the way of corporate competency, and still score 90%. So I told the HRC, if 90% is an A- in the rest of the world, why would you think that a 90% score would make any difference to transgenders who really, really need assistance?
Exactly.
Yeah, the T is pretty silent in the alphabet, actually.
Sure is.
Well, we're starting to make a noise here. It's now the LGBT.
Soon we'll get the full T.
Soon we'll get the T in it.
Let's just keep pushing. We'll just keep pushing.
Absolutely.
Anything else you'd like to add, TJ, before we go ahead and read the trans news for our segment?
I think that just the biggest thing that we all need to do is, first of all, never ever give up. Second of all, understand that you're not alone. And third, whatever you can do to reach out to somebody else, just do it. Because if we don't help each other, we all know we're not going to get the help, at least not very easily. It'll come in time, but it's we have to help each other the best we can. That's the bottom line.
Exactly, and I think the way that we help each other out the most is by being visible. And, thanks to the internet, that has helped us a lot with being visible, because one story will affect or inspire somebody else, as your story here today was very inspirational.
And education.
Your poem was beautiful.
And learning as a community that we have to unite a little bit more, because one of the things that we've noticed is that the transgender community is very fragmented, very divided, and we need to unite, because we're not going to get the help from outside sources. We need to find it ourselves, and we need to unite as a whole.
Absolutely.
I think it's very true, and it's kind of a metaphor. What you just shared is kind of a metaphor for us as human beings. We're subject to all these external structures and all these different the dogmas associated with industry, with churches, with all these different entities, and they're all divisive. And what we really need to be looking for is what we as humans have in common, what we have, because most of us, regardless of our backgrounds or history or anything, most of us can agree on most things most of the time. Well, if that's true, then why is there so much divisiveness and hate? And I think we really need to, as human beings, come and figure out what we have in common more than what we have different.
Exactly. Absolutely, I agree.
Thank you so much, TJ, for being on the show. Good luck.
Oh, it's our pleasure. You two are so sweet. God bless you both. You're so good at what you do, and you're an inspiration to a lot of people. Thank you.
Well, when we get out on the road, we'd love to stop by Jupiter and meet you.
Yes.
You always have a friend here when I'm not flying.
Awesome. Thanks, TJ. You have a great night.
Make sure you check out Dr.
Take care.
Yosef.
Yes.
Take care.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Well, in the Transmuse this evening, talking about the autostrado, New York can pass same-sex marriage, but not trans protection. How gender died. A few months ago, a bill supporting the rights of transgender and other gender nonconforming people failed to come out for a vote in the New York State Senate. It died quietly, years after the Republicans and Democrats came together to vote in support of same-sex marriage. Like most failed legislative efforts, there usually isn't one clear-cut reason for its downfall. A myriad of forces were working against the bill. A cadre of Democrats aligned with Republicans, a lack of unity in the advocacy community, and a wider political problem in how elected leaders perceived Americans' opinions of transgender people.
So let's start with the obvious. The bill wasn't prioritized as same-sex marriage efforts were, which is not a story only familiar to New York, but the whole country. Same-sex marriage has been the central focus of major LGBT rights organizations for years, to the consternation of many LGBT rights activists who believe issues that impact impoverished people and or people of color have been neglected after DOMA. One would think this would be the best time for activists to shine a light on other issues, such as hate crimes against LGBT people. But that hasn't proven to be the case, at least in New York.
Activists have deferred in their approach to pushing the Gender Expression Non-Discrimination Act. The Empire State Pride Agenda released a radio ad that never used the word transgender. Ryan Sounds, a trans man who speaks as an activist on transgender issues, said there is hesitancy from leaders in major LGBT advocacy organizations to use the word transgender, pointing out that historically, trans issues are pushed out of LGBT groups' legislative agendas.
A lot of the time, people think, bring too much attention to the word and people will look away. Sometimes they drop gender ID from it. Non-discrimination bills entirely. There are multiple factors. It has to do with money, education, and transphobia within the LGBT community, Sound said.
And that's exactly what we were talking about earlier with TJ. It's like that T is just very silent. And they have it there, I guess, because it looks good. LGB, kind of the T gives it that little extra flair, but they are still, we were pretty much ignored, and it's almost like they're ashamed of us. Some of the organizations or whatever it is. I don't know. Anyway, it is what it is, and we just have to continue. The T's with the T. Continue to educate, continue to be more visible. Yeah, you need to really get there. Anyway, on Thursday we have Kay and Manel. She's an author, and we've had her on the radio show. We're going to have her on the TV show. She's multiple award-winning books and just an amazing lady. So please stay tuned, 8 p.m. Thursday night on Transition Radio TV. And
we'll see you then.
Yes, thank you so much, TJ, for being on the show. Thank you for our listeners. Thank you to our sponsors. Thank you all. And we want to tell you that we love you, but remember to always love yourselves too. Good night. And I'm leaving you with the remainder of the song, Long Ride Home.